79T 2458 Learning Corp, Little Red Riding Hood, take one.
40 years of my life is in the wire that's gone. Does that make sense?
Where they say there are Indian people pooping on our beach.
It's a spool of wire. 40 years of my life is in the wire that's gone.
All right, I got a new one for you, boys. I don't know if you're watching the channel. You probably already have
So
seen
you can choose your misery with some, you know, pretty girl that, you know, whatever that you just. And I honestly find it.
If your man
interesting
is
for you to say
seeking,
smart.
it's probably because you're not
I
satisfying
would
your man.
encourage, right? So exactly. So. Do not discredit intelligence of others. Please do not use that word.
But marrying or committing to? No, absolutely not. My son will, like, marry an accountant. Not one of my sons would I allow to even date one of you girls.
Okay.
Because you don't shut up. It has been fun. It has been an honor. We're going hiking.
Yes.
Hey, what's up, fellas? Welcome. It's Red Morning. Who'da thunk? Who'da thunk? 6 years, still here, still kicking, still the good audience, still you guys. Dude, Can Frockstar in the chat right now absolutely nailed it. Been listening to Praxeology Volume 3 and noticing I'm seeing bits and pieces of the examples of field reports in other people and myself. Yeah, and that's entirely the point. The one thing that, so obviously Frame, if you guys don't know, I'm an author and I have 3-book series on the praxeology of the red pill. First episode is Frame, second is Dread, third, a collection of field reports. Now, the first two were trying to be as comprehensive as possible, get everything together in a narrative structure that you can follow. Problem with that is there's a lot of, like, it doesn't select for what's the most common thing, what do guys normally have. And so the field reports, there's going to be 2 field report books, and that's mostly to go over the common errors, missteps, frame issues, the blue pilled guys trying to be better kind of stuff, right? And so that's the point of those. And I'm glad you see it, because everybody will see something. There's like 20 field reports in there, 20 case studies, collections of field reports, and you're going to see yourself in at least a couple of them, which it's good. Yeah, poor Cappy. He's loving it. He's like, yeah, thank you for taking so much joy in my misery. And I'm like, once you saw like Somalian Kenny at the show with a bunch of like middle-aged chicks with that cheekbone stuff, you're like, you knew what you were in for. Don't play with me, sir. Don't play with me. All right. So to get to it, I got a good one for you today. I was going back to basics because I like to do that every 6 months to a year. I find, because there's going to be churn. There's a bunch of guys who are here and you've learned Frame and you've learned Dread and you've red pilled yourself and you've gotten, you know, whatever it is you were trying to get and you left. Thank God for that. And then some of you stuck around and you're kind of helpful for like the new guys because you get to see things they don't see, and that's great. But there is a bunch of new guys and they feel like they've walked into a world that just exists outside of them, and they're like having to get caught up, and it could be daunting because let's face it, there's a lot of jargon, there's a lot of misinformation, there's a hell of a lot of idiots running their mouth. Doesn't make it look particularly good. So if you come here new and you start seeing alpha and oak and all this crap, it could be off-putting. So why not stick to the things that matter the most? When in doubt, you can't go wrong finding Frame. Now I have to pull it up. I wrote it down so I wouldn't have to remember. You know, one of those kind of things. It is from the new Substack. So I've done enough case studies for a while. I'm going to pepper back and forth between case studies and fundamental praxeological stuff. We're going to get there now. It's going to be more, it's not quite, I didn't make it out as a lesson plan this time, so it's going to be a little bit improvised, but and God knows I've been doing this long enough. If I can't figure out what the hell I'm talking about at this point, whatever, right? And as always, if you need to interrupt me, just throw a super chat in there. If you do the $5 super chat, I swear to God, I will give you the Murphy. Speaking of which, what is he up to now? Anyways, yeah, so I mean, you know what, before I start, a little story. It is crazy how much, like, military broke me, man. They broke me. Like, every time there's something that's like genuinely positive and happy and everybody should be excited, I just don't get it. I don't get happy. I don't get excited. I don't find things. I'm just a curmudgeon, you know? Which I guess it's good in that it's hard for me to get wrapped up in a bunch of hype over something or other, but yeah, it's just an interesting thing. Although, to be fair, the one thing I do enjoy, I am enjoying writing hella much so, and you guys are enjoying reading. My God. I've been looking through it. So normally with books, yeah, he's going to talk about the dog walker. Yes, he is. It's fine. Normally with my books, what'll happen is it has like a really good first month, half as good second month, half as good again third month, and then long tail, right? This one's been going like equally strong. The first, it's been, let's see, what day is it? 14th is like, I actually have to look things up because I'm so bad at this. 30 days is up on Dog Walker, or it was up on Dog Walker. Close to 1,000. Close to 1,000. And that's like insane. That's, nobody does that. So I'm pretty excited and I'm happy you guys are happy and I'm happy that everybody's enjoying it, because really that's the point. Like, if I can't entertain you, then what the hell's the point of all of this? And that includes the red-pilled stuff. So many guys are just sitting here staring at a camera with their 1984, like, we were always at war with East Asia. It's like, the guys are giving you, in this case, you guys are giving me 2 hours of your attention and your time. Yeah, you may be doing dishes or working out in the background, but you're sitting here and you're listening. You specifically turned me on. And I think the worst thing I can do is waste your damn time. And there are so many people that feel entitled to their audience that don't, and it just drives me nuts. Drives me nuts. So when I do a project like the Dog Walker or the new one coming out, Jake Long and Softbone, It's a little bit of a cliche title, but it's going to be good. I just appreciate every time one of you guys open an email on the Substack, every time you guys buy a book on the Kindle or the Kobo, or there it is, subscribe by the way, or you listen to the audiobook. It's humbling. And as much as I'm an asshole, it's humbling, and I do appreciate this. No frenemies were murdered in the making of this novel. Yeah, the new one, so you're going to like it. I've been, Nick August, my editor in the chat right now. We've been going over some things. I didn't realize it. I was just kind of writing something that I thought would be interesting that other people would like. And he goes, oh, you've really gone ambitious on this one. Which I'm like, uh-oh. What have I done, sir? Anyways, you'll love it. It's a cyberpunk dystopian. I don't want to call it a noir, but it's like picked up parts of it. Because I always worry about guys like, I want to make my own noir. They end up just making a pastiche of it, and that's not it at all. It's still going to be my style in that, like, the character arcs will drive the story here. In this case, the setting's a character as well, but without being exposition heavy. Well, working on that. So I think you guys will like it. At the very least, it'll give you like an awesome satirical look at all the craziness that's happened in the last 10 years, you know? Like the COVID lockdowns, the Ukraine war grift, the drone warfare shots, the whole Troon thing, the hormone therapy stuff, TRT, adult children running things, feminine social or primary social order, all that stuff. So I kind of put it in there to like establish a world in which just a simple story about a guy getting a divorce and finding himself a new wife and starting a family becomes like this action adventure serial. So I think it's going to be pretty cool. I'm enjoying it. And I'm on the second pass right now to get it tightened up, pace going well. Get something that you guys can sit there and be like, dude, I can't put it down. I think it'd be awesome. You look clear. Did I get a new camera? No new camera, no new mic. The camera is the same one. It's mostly lighting issues, right? I always have to play around to get the lighting just right, and I never quite do. But the mic is new. The mic's been new. Oh yeah, so that one. Follow along, ryanstone.substack.com. Subscribe to it. They have a notes feature now, which is they're trying to do Twitter. So there's a following feature and a subscribe. Don't worry about the following. Just subscribe. And then you'll get emails, updates on how the new book's coming along. So if you're curious about it, not sure if you want to commit to a $10 book or a $20 paperback or a $30 hardcover, that's fine. Here you go. Here's some excerpts. If it's the kind of thing that whets your appetite, go for it. If not, that's fine too. You'll always be there, and there's always going to be case studies. So case studies is just like Prax Volume 3. It is a collection of field reports, either from one person over a period of time or from multiple people on the same topic. I go through it, tie it into how it applies to frame, how it applies to dread, how it applies to the red pill in general. Give you some analysis, give you some feedback. Some people like it for the rubbernecking. Some people like it for the example. Some people like it because it hits close to home, but it's somebody else, so they don't mind. Either way. And that one's great. I mean, like, that's just like the price of a Starbucks once a month. That's nothing. I'll always do that. I'm always working to make things. I use my Starbucks business model, where Starbucks is the most flippant thing I think of that people buy nowadays. And I'm like, okay, so if I price it like that, I want it to be on the same level of disposable income and flippancy. So that'll be good. So that's for those guys. I've been trying to move the Patreon Q&As where it's the field reports and the praxeology thing, but it's like live group setting, go over a guy's field report, real time, that sort of stuff, link them to the applicable material to read on it. I'm having a hell of a time getting it from Patreon. I wanted to move it to Substack, but I'm trying to silo the two audiences, and it's just a pain in the ass because security is kind of important to me. I used to do that for a living. Anyway, so praxeology, the fundamentals, what's frame. And before we do that, let's make fun of somebody. Actually, you know what? No, let's this one?
Hi, I'm Kurt Vonnegut. I'm looking for
Ryan Stone.
What's that? Fuck me. Hey, Kurt, you read lips. Fuck you!
You know, it's funny. I like that one, but I don't really like it. Like, it's missing the avant-garde of my usual work. Like, Sad Clary absolutely nails my aesthetic. But anyways, so back to the content. Oh, and the timestamp. Time are we on? 13:30. By the way, ryanstone.com/thedogwalker, available on Amazon, on Kindle, on Kobo, on paperback, on hardcover. Absolutely amazing. You'll absolutely love it. Anyways, what is frame? Fundamentals. Frame. So talking with Dr. Seeger, which you guys remember him as the cold immersion bath guy. Really switched on. Really a big fan of his. He's a fan of mine. We're buds. And he noticed when he was reading this, he's like, yeah, frame isn't really a thing. Like, you don't describe it. It's not like a clock. A clock has this, a clock has that. Frame's more of a metaphor. And I realized, like, once he put it that way, it put it all into perspective. That's why it's a very difficult thing to articulate, but a very, very easy thing to understand once you have it, right? So, like, what is frame? And it originally started in the old pickup days. I think it was Mystery. It could have been one of the other guys, but I'll just say, whenever I'm talking about the pickup guys, I'll just say Mystery and leave it at that. Yeah, the randomness of dissing Vonnegut. Yeah, it's true. There's so many 40-year-old references in there. They're like, what the hell? Oh, yeah, the metaphor. So it started in the pickup areas. I always just talk about a Mystery. And he was talking about frame control. The idea is when you're interacting with somebody, it's generally two people's frames trying to establish a common reality, right? Which sounds a little woo-wee, but it's not really. There's always underlying assumptions about an interaction. And the idea of frame control was to control the underlying assumptions. So if a girl's hitting on you at the bar, or you're hitting on a girl at the bar, sorry, and she's not into you, or she wants to flex in front of her friends by rejecting you as some clueless loser, that's her frame control. I'm going to use you for social credit, make fun of you in front of my friends, and reject you. Your frame control is, I'm going to walk up to this girl, I'm going to seduce her, and she's going to be a fan of mine, and she's going to want to, go sleep with me later. Those are the two frame states, right? Which one wins? Usually women, because men have no frame. None. And then the whole idea of like pickup when it first came out was, well, how can we establish frame control? And it came out as a bunch of like canned scripts, trips and ticks, or tricks and tips, or things you would do, like peacocking, negging, icebreakers or openers, the DiCarlo escalation ladder, all of this stuff, right? And it was all A/B tested. There was no narrative structure surrounding it. It was just, well, this thing worked, all right, throw it in there. It's like Warhammer. If it's cool and it works, throw it in. So what ended up coming out of this is the RSD guys, the real social dynamics. Remember the Fatty McFatty there, Owen? I think everybody speaks so well of him too, which is so weird because you look at him, he's just like some fat, balding, redheaded dude who just talks with like a very effeminate lisp. But then everybody's like, God, he's just so charming. So like either he's bribing the shit out of everybody, or he really is charisma incarnate. So he realized that was like inner game. Oh, fixing those things inside of you that allow people to change your frame state, I think is how he put it. So the idea is if that girl is making fun of you in front of her, back to the example, making fun of you to make herself look good in front of her friends, without inner game, you take that personally, you get rejected, you probably get angry, you start yelling at her. Now you're in a position where the bouncers are kicking you out of a bar because you're yelling at the poor woman, and she's crying, and she's the victim, and all of her friends love her, and you've basically fallen into her frame, and you've absolutely created an unforced error for yourself. Again, rudimentary stuff. Skip ahead 10 years. Red pill guys kind of were like, they're older, I'm not dating anymore, everybody's in a relationship, everybody's married, everybody has families, realizing, dude, a lot of this stuff still applies. Like, you thought it was just games to play around, to fool around with girls and have fun, but a lot of the human condition is just situation agnostic, And so you'd notice that you're kind of running game on your boss when you're negotiating for a salary, or you're gaming your wife, and that's, increases your sex life, or your kids are an absolute shit test. That's all they do is they check your frame state. They poke for boundaries. That's what they do. And they're 100% ego. So they have no theory of mind that you even exist outside of their little imaginations. So that's when the concept of frame started coming through. And then everybody took everything that everybody was doing. This was like 6-year-olds playing soccer. They kick the ball. Everybody swarms the ball. Ball kicks over there. Everybody swarms the ball. That was how the red pill concepts work. So for a good couple years, everything was filtered through the lens of frame. Did your wife shit test you? How's your frame? Did you get rejected? How's your frame? Did you caveman your wife? Did you turn down sex? Did she get bitchy? Did she divorce? Did she cheat on you? Frame. And a lot of it was ham-fisted. But that's the only way to know, is to systematically check it with everything. And then you find out, okay, so these are the kind of things that frame applies to, and these are the kind of things they're not applied to. One of the concepts that came out of it was the Tetrahedron of frame, which if you've read Frame, Praxeology, Volume 1, Frame, for the self-actualization of the modern man, the only self-help book that doesn't offer any help. And actually involves yourself, not me. Most self-help books is like, I'm awesome, you need to do what I said, because I'm right. Then you do it, and you're like, it didn't work. You're like, yeah, you didn't do it perfectly. You forgot about the period, the dot in the I. And you're like, fuck you. Fuck you, Atomic Habits. Atomic kiss my ass. Kurt Vonnegut, motherfucker. By the way, if you need the mugs, store.ryanstone.com. The Red Morning gear and merch is here. Use promotional code PROMOTION. And I believe it's... I can't remember, each discount's different, but for every product, it basically takes it down to the at cost minus $1. I think I have to make like 99 cents off anything, otherwise it doesn't let me do the sale. So yeah, there it is for you. I see a free gender, I'll get to you in just 2 seconds. Finish this thought because I always lose it. So frame, like what is frame? And end up with the tetrahedron. And the tetrahedron is a simple idea. It's like a pyramid, a three-sided pyramid. You have 3 legs holding up something at the top. It's a stable, it's one of the most stable things out there. And so it was a great symbol to describe the metaphor of frame. Free Gender, $10 super chat. Thank you very much, sir. That's 2 heartfelts. I'm going to hold off on the Murphy for a little bit here. The Brazilian says he's a master of game, but he only has an 8% close rate, which means for him to get a 2,000 lay count, he has literally talked to 25,000 girls. Life wasted. Oh, there's a name I haven't heard in a hot minute. I haven't even made an ad out of this guy. That's how much I don't care about him. Maybe I'll have to. If you guys don't know the lore, the iceberg on this one, he's talking about a guy, John Anthony Lifestyle, if I'm not mistaken. For some reason, anybody who's got a John Anthony in their name is just a fucking tard. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, so he bragged about having 1,000 notches. And then one day he bragged about 1,300 notches. And I don't know what he's up to now, but apparently it's like 2,000. Of course, it kind of came out that he's a bit of an alcoholic. And by a bit, I mean like Waffle House passed out on the floor alcoholic. A lot of them were prostitutes, and a huge amount of them were probably troons. So he's kind of gotten in that route. I still think the funniest part of that lore is when Rich Cooper was looked at him. He's like, "Oh, who's this fat can of?" I always get it wrong. Is it a fat can of smashed assholes, or is it a fat smashed can of assholes? Let me know in the chat which one is it. Anybody a regular on Rich's comments? Is it smashed can of assholes or a can of smashed assholes? I want to say it's a smashed can of assholes, because how do you smash an asshole? But then again, I'm not that guy. But funny thing though, the 8% close rate, a lot of people get this wrong. They think the greatest pickup artists are like 50-50. Every girl they run into, it's halftime in, halftime out, right? Not so. Some of the guys who do the most work, who are the best at it, like they've got natural skills, attractiveness, right place, right time, sexually charged environment, all that stuff, they were like 12%. That's the most you can hope for. That means out of every 10 girls you approach, maybe one of them takes the bait. Maybe one of them. And for the most part, it was like 5%. So 1 out of 20. And when a lot of guys hear this, they're like, I thought Troy Francis is supposed to be the master at this. I thought Mystery was supposed to be the GOAT. And then they name your pickup artist du jour, and I can't believe that. And it's like, no, you don't get it. Like, that is a good rate. But here's the thing. Most guys will only get 2 to 5% close rates anyway, if you're into the numbers. But here's the problem. Most guys don't approach 20 girls, ever. I think, Rolo, he loves this stat. I don't know if it's true. I prefer to believe it's true because it makes total sense that guys will approach 20 or so, 21 women through their entire life. That's it. And you get the worst, you get a Rivellino level, I'm a horrible pickup artist and I don't know what I'm doing. Approaches 20 girls in a month. He's officially done more than some guys have done in their life. So even if he gets like a horrible close rate, at that point, there's nowhere to go but up. Just pure brute force practice. You can't help but get better, right? Of course, there's a lot of other things to it. And the part I love about it is, we're going to get back to frame in a second. You guys got me, Free Genders got me on this little diatribe about why John Anthony's an idiot, but some lessons in it too. Is all those tips and tricks, mostly training wheels. Mostly training wheels. A lot of it doesn't matter. Like, I think in my own life, it was one of the more amazing things ever. It was when I actually had a girl, like halfway I was running my set and I was doing everything and I'm like, yeah, this is going perfect. I'm nailing all the things. She kind of just leaned over and was like, you don't have to try so hard, man. And that was her way of saying, like, relax. I'm sold. Just fucking chill out. Have a beer. Like, all right, fair enough. Didn't need to do any of that stuff. Sometimes I did. A lot of times I didn't. And that's when you feel, or that's when you understand, it's just training wheels. It's there because when everybody, back in the day, everybody used to say, just go over and say hi. And then the guy would go over and say hi, and then blank. What the fuck do I do now? It was a filler for all of that what do I do nows. It got you comfortable with the process, gave you some measure of a structure to it, so that way when things were going wrong, you can kind of say, okay, so it was like right about this point, and usually we do this stuff, and it was kind of loosely tied to the way these things work. But at the same time, once you kind of got used to the process, you didn't really need it anymore, which I thought was great. Literally cast iron pan, buy it once, use it, learn it, get rid of it, or never buy it again. Training wheels, use them. When you don't need them anymore, take them off. So back to the tetrahedron. Yeah, the tetrahedron. So what was the tetrahedron? And a lot of guys realized there was like fairly easy categories that everything that guys were doing when it associated with frame involved either something physical, something intellectual, or something emotional. And then everybody was always about that self-actualization. I want a vision. I want a mission. It was always about a mission. Even Puck was like, you will make yourself, not your woman, your mission. Everybody loves talking about missions. For some reason, military jargon, just guys eat that shit up. Military grade vision. You're like, holy shit. Yeah. That's kind of what you got right now. Military grade visions, from the Tate War Room to the Rivlino School of How Not to Sleep with Underage Girls. Pretty sad when you can't even do that. When you can't even Epstein properly in Spain. I'm like, come on, bro. It's Spain. That's like European Mexico, and you're screwing it up. It's there to keep me from doing something worse. It's a good way of putting it. I like it. Yeah. So what was the physical stuff? Well, the physical stuff was all the easy, external, physical stuff. You know, and it's mostly self-improvement falls into that. And when they say self-improvement, it's always aimless tasks. The Heraclean tasks, except for there's nothing at the end of it. No gods to define it. Just some grifters like, yeah, these 7 things. Drink some water. Read the Bible. Put down the video games. Take up sports gambling. You too will be an alpha male. What's an alpha male? Think of all those things that are good. That are good and aspirational. You're like, yeah, okay. He goes, put them in your head. He goes, yeah. He goes, that's what it is. Really? How'd you know what I was thinking? I didn't, but you did. And so buy my shit. And everybody's like, yeah, give me 3 of them. Anyways, working out, eating right, dressing better, hygiene, having a style, building a brand, all of that stuff. And it's all, and the reason it's so, that's the popular side of it, is because it's all external. You can show, it's signaling theory writ large. Wow, look at the arms on that guy. He's so amazing. Wow, look at the yellow aviator shades on that guy. What a Chad. Oh, look at that hair. Still a full head of hair. Wow. Wow, a little bit of gray. Look at that. Like, all these things. Oh, he's 6 feet tall. Cool. Oh, look at him talk. He speaks so well. All of those things. Self-improvement loves to deal with them too, because you can see the effects. And for the most part, it's just consumer purchasing. Buy yourself a new shirt. You'll look great. And it's easy to see. And it doesn't involve anything from you. It doesn't take anything except for like $50, you know? So everybody loved that. But it is important. It is important. I think Carl, Black Label Logic, which you guys remember, used to be the old... I'll call him co-host of the channel. Yeah, I'd say that's a good way of putting it. The old co-host of the channel. He always mentions like, yeah, like women don't have that hyper fixation on looks the way that guys do. It's like, oh, she has to be the hottest one ever. And that's the only analog they care about. Be hot. And then when guys get older, they're like, don't be a pain in my ass. That tends to be the 2 things. None of this, well, her fertility is, shut up. But girls aren't like that. They mostly looking for ways to filter. So you have to be a 7 out of 10 just to catch a girl's attention. It doesn't matter if she's a troglodyte. If you're not a 7 in the looks department, she doesn't see you. It's invisible. A lot of the MGTOWs had that, where the unattractive guys are invisible. Well, what's their solution? It was well, let's just whine about it and draw some comics. Make fun of women and yell at chicks online. Like, all right, fair, we can do that. Or hit the gym, look good, shave, shower your balls, see what happens. And then a lot of guys are like, all right, sounds good. And then they hyper-focused on it. They're like, yeah, TRT and raw meat carnivore. And like every whack-a-mole fad, they were all over it. All over it like a 1960s housewife looking at that new moisturizer ad of youth and beauty. Oh, 10% less lead. Give me 3. I'll wipe that all over and then they'll love me forever. Doesn't work that way, madam. So guys were turning into like neurotic housewives from the 60s. It was absolutely crazy. where a guy was like, yeah, you could just get to be a 7 out of 10. And that was like remarkably little effort comparatively. Like if you want to be a 5%, 3% body fat, shredded bodybuilder type, eating clean, doing all this stuff, you can do that. But the amount of effort it takes to get from like a normal 12% abs when you flex, but not when you're sitting there silently, to that is like an exponentially greater amount than to go from a fat fuck to a lean guy who's in shape that gets abs when he flexes. So what a lot of guys were figuring out, and they figured it out the easy way or the hard way, whichever to you, is that those guys that got good enough and then moved on to a different skill set did far better. And the guys who went hardcore into like, I will have the sunken cheekbones, I will have paper thin skin, I'll be shredded all the time, my entire body will look like an erect penis with veins sticking out every which way. And then what did they find? It's like, yeah, I maximized that, but it turns out humans aren't attractive on a linear scale. What does that mean? Yeah, muscles is good. Being thin is good. So more muscles and thinner is better. It's like, no, there is a Goldilocks zone. It's the same as I talk about in Frame when it comes to water. Water is not a linear survival resource. Too much water and you drown. Too little water and you dehydrate. So there is a Goldilocks zone. And then what you find is that same concept of that applies to the physical pillar. But you don't sell based on rational and reasonable and good enough. You have to sell on bigger and better. And so the arms race started. Oh, the arms race. You got to stop being fat. And they're like, all right, I'm not fat anymore. And then the other guy's like, well, I should tell you to stop. Like, why should I listen to you tell me to stop being fat when that guy's been doing it for longer and I like him better? Well, you need to be shredded. Oh, well, fuck me then. I didn't know I had to be shredded. I just thought I had to be not fat. Well, let me sign up to your shredded course. Then the other guy's like, shredded? Pfuh. You need to be a monster. Like, Jesus, monsters are better than shredded. Think about all those monsters you used to watch on cartoons. So I got to be a monster. No, man. You need to be swole. And you're like, holy shit, I don't even know what that means. Give me 4. Sign it up. Some guys weren't even going to be close to making it, but it felt like they were good, like they're in the club. Like, yeah, I'm not swole yet, but I'm in the swole war room for masculine gentlemen, and we're getting there. So it's just a matter of time. Temporarily disenfranchised swole jacks. And like, all right, fuck, whatever. And then it got to the point where it was just absurdity, where you have some dude who's on, from what I understand, like 5,000 milligrams or some insane amount of like testosterone and human growth hormone. He looks like a human gorilla, and he's eating raw liver, and not even with like a knife and fork, just fisting it, like a hamburger. And you're like, yeah, you know what's great? Just eat this liver. Like, Jesus. His heart, meanwhile, is like, his heart is like, I hate you so much. He's trying his best. That Chinese sweatshop worker of a heart, pumping out t-shirt after t-shirt of red blood cells, just praying for the sweet embrace of death. He's like, no, we got to sell more liver supplements. Which, by the way, we have a bunch of liver supplements here too. You know what we call them? Dog treats. You get dehydrated liver pellets. You feed them to your dogs. And this guy figured out, dude, I could feed human insecure men fucking dog food. And the guys are like, yeah. I was like, oh, fuck me. But you see what I mean? That's where the physical pillar needed a thing. You have to like calibrate. And that's a very important word. And it doesn't get enough. Like, it gets thrown around a lot, but it doesn't get defined well either. FYI, Bob, is it true your boy Tate left the country when the governor of Florida said he was going to prosecute him and yelled at a Candace Owens interview, come get me, arrest me? It was hilarious. I feel so bad in that, like, I reference him in my videos and that all the time. I have very little idea what he's up to. I think Rule Zero Dad put it best. I love having him as the red pill lawyer guy because he gets like all those, what are they called? JSTOR? Anyways, a bunch of legal briefs on what's happening in the courts around, how common law has been changing, that kind of stuff. So, supposedly what has happened is Tate was suing somebody in Florida. But because he was under house arrest in Romania, he couldn't show up to the courts. So he was able to Zoom call it or something like that. Once they lifted the travel ban, then he had no legal standing to avoid the courts in Florida for his lawsuit. So he went down there to sort that stuff out. And that's when everybody was trying to, and I know the law they're talking about. It happened in Canada a little while ago. You know, the whole like human trafficking and the underage girl thing, which as far as all of the crimes he's admitted to, is probably the least the least criminal of them, but whatever. So the States has a law, same as Canada, where things are illegal here. Age of consent laws, for example. And if you go and do sex tourism in Thailand, for example, they will still consider it, because you're a citizen, a crime back home. We found that out. It was, it would have been like 10 years ago. Everything's 10 years ago now. 10 years ago in 1992. Now, 10 years ago, there was a Canadian who went down to Thailand to sleep with a lot of underage boys. And he used to brag about it on, I want to say Facebook, but it could have been something else. I don't remember. Anyways, and he thought he was all clever because he would use like the Photoshop swirl filter to hide his face. But then somebody just like, hey, let me try something here. They put the swirl filter on and reversed the numbers, and it put his face mostly back to normal. Like, hey, I know this guy. He got arrested. He got charged. You know, not allowed to diddle kids, sir. I don't care if you're in Thailand. They still count. They're still people. So that same law here is what Florida is attempting to do with him. But that was kind of went there. So him going to Vegas and all the other stuff he's doing, I don't know the significance of that. I try to keep like just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. So in this case, yeah, it's if you're going to traffic in women, if you're going to brag about underage women, if you're going to brag about financial crimes, don't, because like all that stuff will be used in a criminal case against you. And it's like, yeah, I get it. Romanians corrupt. America is cucked, and Longhouse this and Longhouse that. It's like, yeah, well, that's the environment you're in. So why do you want to fuck with the beast? Yeah, but it's not right. But it may not be right. It may not be right. But did Kafka teach us nothing? Anyways, thank you very much for the super chat. I don't know if hilarious is the word I would use. It's just, I don't know. It'd be nice to see a conclusion of this. It's like Walking Dead. Do you remember the first 3 seasons were just awesome? Oh man, they got the RV and they're running. Oh, they found a farm and that's cool. And meet the governor, and oh, then they're going to the prison. This is cool. And then you realize like every season's the same, and they have less plot, so they have to fill like half the episodes with like 2 characters just talking and blabbing and feeling about each other. And it's like, oh, he likes her, he doesn't like her. Oh, there's some drama there. And then you're just like, by the end of season 3 and the start of season 4, you're like, all right, I'm fucking out. I don't know what walking. Now there's like 20 spin-off shows and you don't care. I feel like that's where we are with the war room of masculine excellence and its cheerleaders right now. It's like, another season? Let me guess, zombies in this one too, right? He's had his moment. Everybody gets their 15 minutes of fame. Tate managed to squeeze an extra 3 out of it. So like 18 minutes. Good for him. The RV was Breaking Bad. No, there was an RV in Walking Dead. Go watch season 1 again. Yeah, I thought there was some toe-to-toe rivalry. It's pro wrestling rivalry. It's not real rivalry. I hate to tell you guys, wrestling isn't real. I really do. It's just because I said bad things about him, which were mostly true, and I feel completely vindicated. And he decided to like call me an asshole or short or whatever, because that's what you do to drum up interest. Back then, he was just a tiny little brand, kind of like me. He was me sized. Now that he's bigger, he gets to shit on Candace Owens or the Jews or whatever they're shitting on now. Anyways, enough of that. Back to frame. So yeah, the physical frame. You had to get things calibrated. It's never really defined. Calibration just means you're trying things and comparing the results to the goals that you're aiming for. Right? And when you're just doing things haphazardly, that's how you get those stupid looksmacks type weirdos, which I don't even know how many of them actually exist and how much of it is just a meme. We're using it as a scapegoat here. Go with it. Looksmacks guys, you got to get jaw surgery. You got to get the leg extensioning things. And there's like a very small amount, but those margins kind of show you the sentiment, right? They show you the sentiment. And it's all these guys trying to pick a singular trait and hyper focus on it, like autists. It doesn't work. So you have to calibrate. And what is calibration? Well, for the most part, guys are showing like, what level of fitness do I need to get my goals? And then it's like, what is your goals? Most guys, your primary goal once you find this place is you want to get laid. Either your wife or random women or a girlfriend, you know, something like that. You basically want to get laid. And then guys will figure it out. Okay, so how fit do you have to be to get laid? Turns out not as much as you think. Not as much as you think. As long as you look good in clothes, that's good enough. So clothes hot, not naked hot. Well, yeah, but don't you want to look naked hot? It's like by the time you're naked, she's already invested. Her mind will wipe from her mind. Like, oh, I didn't like that. Shut up. Shut up. He said he loved you. This is the one. We could finally get off of SS. This is the girl's fucking brain talking. Get off the SSRI. She goes, hold up. Kind of need those. Anyways. So that's the physical pillar. And then you have the intellectual pillar. Now, the intellectual pillar, that's the one that autists love. Yeah, there's the hyper-focused autists, but then there's the intellectual autists. Hold that thought. Free Gender decided to unleash the Kraken. You son of a bitch. You know, I tell you guys not to, and then what do? You just...
So the meme, they're very good. This is really, they've taken it.
True Alpha.
Named Ryan Stone.
It says, ask Murphy about the article he wrote, cuckolding his wife. Clear up the cuck article. Clear up the cuck article.
Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me?
If I wasn't prepared to literally impoverish his entire bloodline,
I am now concerned for my career.
And I still recommend clear up the cuck article.
You know what? Fuck you for bringing this up. Yeah. Fuck you. Heartfelt.
I'm not going to have those guys back on my channel again. Absolutely not.
Just use a little bit of fucking common sense.
It is just...
That's great. That's you should.
Fuck you.
Sorry, apologies.
Just keep going, dude. One foot in front of the other. Before you know it, this will all be in the rearview mirror. Fuck you.
How do you not love that shit? All right, Free Gender, $5 super chat. The $5 career-ending super chat heard round the world. Talk about the cuck. Clear up the cuck article. I can't wait till Candace Owens divorces her husband to try to get with Andrew Tate and slaughters her brand. Dude, I don't understand it. I mean, I accept it, but I don't understand it. There is no way to slaughter your brand in 2025. You know how I was talking about the physical pillar, how everybody has their whole, God, I'm clipping. Move that out a little bit. How everybody was just like escalating everything. Branding is going there. Everybody has a fucking podcast. Everybody has a podcast. Everybody has a YouTube channel. Everybody has a Substack now. Like everybody. A lot of this stuff I did because I enjoyed it. People are like, no, it's the checklist, man. You grab all these things. And so how do you stand out from the list? Well, you can have talent. You can have something you prefer to talk about. You can have some enjoyment or subject matter expertise. Or you can have less shame than everybody else. And there is a arms race to who has the least shame. We thought Zerka. Well, no, we thought Sneeko was the top. Dude, Sneeko talks about getting cucked and how it's fun. Talks about how cuties. He's like, it's like they were 18-ish. And you're like, dude, this is as bad as it's going to get. No! Sneeko was just the scout, the recon force. Then you had that Zerka guy who's, I don't even know what the fuck he's up to. But every time I see him, somebody posted that photo of him getting punched out. He gets right mad on that. And I've heard Rolo doing some flagpole ramblings about him. So like, I already figured out. And then Tate's like, oh, have you tried creating your own Epstein Island? You're like, oh, really? Cool. And then everybody now, oh my God, they're like, hey, you know what sucks? The Jews. And you're like, what the fuck? We not mad about that again? It's always the Jews. Which ones? Duh. Okay. Candace Owens, my girl was watching her on TikTok, and it was just like this 20-minute rant about the nation of Israel, and I was just like, maybe it's because I'm Canadian, we got our own problems, but it's just amazing how it's like we need a boogeyman, and now that they kick the trans people out, now that Trump's in office, we need a new one. What's the go-to? Jews. Fair enough. But anyways, and then the whole theory is that they control everything, right? Yet they're letting this fucking broad run her mouth with impunity. It's like, in Canada, there's like 500 Islamic protests a week. Every Canadian city, they're running. I don't know who's funding it, but they are running them like a Twitter ad. It's just everywhere. It's like Ian Carroll. You're like, how did this happen? It came out of nowhere and now they're everywhere. For some reason, all that magical small hat power doesn't seem to do shit there. So it's a very selective Cthulhu, you know? But the point is, like, she's not going anywhere. They're never gonna like, even when they fired her from Daily Wire, which, to be fair, that is like the one thing there. Ben Shapiro's gonna be like, bro, this shit out of here, and they're like, all right, fine. And so, like good little Judeo-Christians, they kicked off the colored woman. They got to get a new one now. Maybe they'll get Pearl. Isn't she Irish? Irish don't count as white. Kidding. Or am I? Yeah, so she's doing her own thing. She's gonna be fine. She will be fine. She can ditch her husband. She can become a harem broad to the Tates. Nothing's gonna matter. Nothing's gonna stop her. Casey fucking Anthony. You remember her? The chick that duct taped her kids, threw them in the back of her car, dumped it in a river, went to the bar, then went to prison, got a very lenient sentence because, like, whammon. Am I right? If a guy had duct taped a kid and thrown him in the back of the car, he'd have been hung from the gallows. We don't even hang people anymore. There'd be a video out there of like those ones where the guy's just sitting as they're taking a guy to the courthouse and the dad of like one of the kids just shoots the guy. They would have been videos of that shit everywhere. Anyways, Casey Anthony starting a brand, has a Substack, has a social media profile. If Casey Anthony can avoid the cancel mob of all people, do you really think these fucking Daily Wire grifters are going anywhere? It's like, no, man. Candace Owens could murder her whole fucking family and still have a job in the morning. And I don't mean to make this sound insensitive. I don't mean to make this sound crude. I don't mean to make this sound cynical or curmudgeon-y or whatever word you want to use that's negative and feels bad. But this is the best news you could hear as a content creator. To know where that line is. And it is so far from where I'm willing to go, I can just run my mouth about anything that interests me and I'll be fine. You know why? Because she murdered her fucking family and she's doing well. I thought I was happy enough when OJ came back and he started having that OJ's Girls Want Run Wild video where it was just him with hoes and he was making money on that. Like, if OJ can do it, I'll be fine. So yeah, don't worry. It's like porn stars. Like, you're never going to get your comeuppance. They're never going to learn the consequences of their actions of being a hoe. They're going to settle down. They're going to have a good husband. They're going to have a great family. Casey Anthony managed to find a new husband. Could you imagine the level of thirst there has to be when you get the family murdering party hoe and you're like, I can fix her. I can fix her. Talk about frame control. Casey Anthony, I want to put her face on the cover of the fucking book, but Bad Billy Pratt already did that with his, so. Anyways, the intellectual pillar of frame. The intellectual pillar. This is more of the charts, the facts, the figures, the understanding. How is the world? What is it doing right now? The most of the complaining you'll see is based on intellectual stuff, and that is understanding the Evo Psych stuff. Why women have sex. David Buss, Cindy Minson, the Pinker, the Evo Psych, dual mating strategy. Most of the stuff that Rollo does is focused on the intellectual pillar. This is the stuff that is good to know. It's just things that are more true have better predictive power. And so the more true the things are that you learn, the more you're able to predict and navigate the world as it stands, right? So women are going to get less sentences. Like Casey Anthony will get 1/10 of the sentence that a man would get in her position. You accept that, you understand that. And that's because men usually prefer women over men, and women always prefer women over men. The sisterhood, Uber, Alice. Right? So now that you know that, what do you do? Well, back to that example I did an hour ago. Remember that guy who was like, oh, I'm going to hit on that girl and she's going to flex on her friends by shooting me down? I'm going to fucking yell at her, call her a lesbian in front of everybody and slam the desk. It's like, no, you're not. You know why? Because nobody in this group, no matter how wronged you were and how evil she was and how cruel she was, is going to take your side. They're just not. So what do you do? And that's kind of where the intellectual stuff comes in. What do you do? Well, handle it with some grace. Don't let it, ruffle your feathers. Don't let her see you sweat. Think about her like a 4-year-old. I love this one where it's like, if a 4-year-old calls you a poopy head, what do? Do you call the 4-year-old a lesbian and drop kick him through the drywall? No. You laugh. You're like, fuck kid. Give him a noogie. Go on with your day. Throw a finger paint on the fridge, right? That's it. So how hard is that to do that to a 23-year-old that's trying to flex on you at the bar? Or like, and to be fair, I enjoy the sad Clary video. I do. It is funny, but it's kind of an example of that. And you see, the girls are just running their mouth. They're all drunk. Except for the one that was given googly eyes to Clary, which was kind of sweet and adorable, but the one with the glasses. And they don't care about any of this stuff. They're not trying to argue facts. They're not trying to argue truth. They're just running their mouth because drunk chicks chirp like chipmunks, and that's just what they do. Like yappy chihuahuas. Clary's sitting there, is like, what the fuck am I wanted to go hiking. And they're like, yeah, just sit down for a minute. We'll go hiking after you. Hey, fair enough. But yeah, just realize that's a work and that's a piece, and girls just do this stuff and you can't take them too seriously. Well, what about this one situation where they can get you into real trouble? It's like, well, I'll give you a hint when it comes to the intellectual stuff. You understand how they act. You understand the lack of accountability that's baked into our DNA. Why are you putting yourselves in positions where they have a chance to absolutely screw you over with impunity? Well, they're not supposed to. Yeah, this isn't... It's the intellectual pillar. It's not the post hoc rationalization filter. It's not the should pillar. No. You understand that's how this is going to play out. So fucking act accordingly. And that's where the intellectual stuff comes in, right? There is tons of it. I could lay it out, and I'm not going to lay it out because there's like hours and hours and 2 fucking books just to describe all this intellectual stuff. And there's more. There's tons more. There's always new research coming out. There's always new falsifications. There's always new data. Not a lot since 2015, but we'll get there. And that's when you get to the third pillar. But before we get there, make fun of... Hey, she's still around. Hey, I hear this chick is defending Destiny's whole revenge porn, degenerate bullshit. So like a true Canadian, when you got somebody who's a criminal asshole, you back him to the ends of the earth.
I've talked to Ryan Stone once. I'm pretty sure the whole conversation, I pushed him like pretty hard.
What was hard, Ariel?
The therapist will essentially give them SSRIs, which I think the sexual effects that SSRIs have on the body, right?
Some. There's tons of like MAOs and like tricyclics that you're talking about, like the type of SSRIs that used to be given to pedophiles. We don't give those to men. But he's not as informed as like I think he would like to be. Yeah.
Here's my question. What the fuck is she up to lately? I'm pulling it up quickly because I don't know. I haven't followed her in like fucking years. I've had her blocked and I just like out of sight, out of mind. But now I'm looking at the ad. I'm like, what is she doing? Oh, Jesus. Eek. The wall cometh for everybody. Oh, Jesus. I don't know what this is about. It says chicken coup d'etat. Fuck, whatever. Eesh. I mean, like, whatever. I'm not being cruel to her. I'm got to earn your money. Her husband's probably not a fan of this stuff, but yeah. The Venti's a Trenta, and I'll leave it at that. Anyways, free gender, $5 1 cent super chat. It's funny, after the Jack Murphy ad, you guys are all about that extra penny, but beforehand you're like, no, I want to see him rant about the cuck article. The ultimate pickup artist is Destiny, LOL. Speaking of which, if Lauren Chu and Lauren Southern could start an OnlyFans, bring on the millions. What is it with Canadian influencers? Why are we so fucking bad at this? Like, we're good at making money, but the whole shame thing. I think it's because our government cucks us so bad that we're kind of like battered wife syndrome, where we kind of go the other direction. It's like, oh, you know what? I got nothing left to lose. Bring on the Destiny porn. You're like, yeah. You're not wrong. Destiny, as much as I find him to be fucking annoying, I kind of treat him the same way I was talking about Pearl Davies, Pearlian things, whatever. Where it's like, she'll be fine. He's going to be fine. They're going to do their thing. They're going to be great. And they're going to move on to something else. I just wish they stopped talking about the red pill. That's really it. But yeah, same thing for him. But to be fair, he's an example of why, like, oh, you need to be physically the pinnacle of man. No, you don't. You know what he did? He had fame and drugs. Fame and drugs. That was it. Pro Jared did nothing wrong. Same thing. Pro Jared looks at him. He looks like Beaker from the Muppet Show, but he had fame, and fame came with fans, and fame and fans mattered more than six-pack abs. So it's possible to like not like a person or to like somebody and to have them have a game. Everybody's got a game. You know, Destiny probably would have had a better game if he was in shape and didn't grind his teeth all the time, which take from that what you will. Probably would have been better if he didn't revenge porn shouldn't be a crime. Maybe it's on the books though. Maybe don't. And then if you're gonna suck a dude's dick, don't film it and post it for your buddies. And if you do, at least put in performance. Don't give like the saddest blowy ever. Like Jesus. That's like what was the one? There was like, remember the sex tape epidemic they had in like the late 2000s, 2010s? There's like Paris Hilton, Kim Kardashian, but there was one, and I can't remember who it was. Maybe you guys remember this in the chat, where they put out a sex tape, and the sex tape was so bad, people were like, eh. Like, if you're gonna, don't be that guy. Be the Paris Hilton. Put some effort in there, you know? Romanian passport, Andrew Tate's $5 1 cent super chat. Cooking is a task too important to put in the hands of women. Well, you know what they say? It's women cook, men are chefs. It's absolutely true. But that's because like I notice, and I'm not going to use my girl as an example because she's kind of an exception to this rule. It's not about Mexico. They really teach you how to do well. But most women are good at following orders. There's a recipe. You do what the book says. The cookbook is the authority. I will listen to it. It says an ounce of paprika, not 1.1 ounces, not 0.9 ounces, 1 ounce. And so they'll bring out measuring tapes and do this, and they'll try to be the good little wife. Meanwhile, the guy is like, about an ounce? All right, fuck it. Like a moderately sized scoop. I'll just do that. It's a little off, but they know why it's supposed to be there, and they'll taste it like, all right, it's good. And that's the thing. Guys are willing to test and try out, and women are mostly, follow directions, and that's the difference between cooking and being a chef. FYI, Bob, another 5. Okay, fine, we're going there. Don't be surprised. Candace will cheat on her husband with Tate after all scored with 2 Canadian women and Mrs. Peterson. Yeah. To be fair, I'm like, it's Canadian women. They're not the hardest to get. We're not Puritans. We're actually pretty loose. And the ones from Montreal, so it's like, are you even trying at that point? But yeah, I mean, good for him. All the influence. To be fair, I'm actually amazed at how many influencers on even like Twitter, let alone YouTube and all the other stuff, how many of them are just treating this as like a dating site. Every site's a dating site if you try hard enough. I'm like, bro, I'm here to sell books. I'm here to make a living. It's like the gym to me. If I was single, I sure as shit wouldn't be fucking a girl who like puts her life online for clout. That is just some led by your dick level stupidity. Think about this, man. Between Tate and Michaela Peterson, with the dirt that they have on each other, who's got more to lose? Well, I mean, Michaela. She does, obviously. But if Tate did, he'd be in that position. Like, why do you want to give somebody that power? You want to sleep with a Starbucks barista who has a Pinterest. That's it. Anything more than that, it's a professional risk, man. You know that whole don't sleep with coworkers? Matters for influencers too. Does she have a YouTube channel? Does she have a Twitter? No. Everybody's all worried about the OnlyFans girls. I'm like, I'm worried about a chick with a Twitter account. Those are the ones that put a thread. You know, the ever popular, I just had a thing with this person that's bigger than me, a thread. And you're like, fuck. There's my driver's license. There's her making fun of my sexuality. There's her embellishments. Now, if I go in there and start defending myself, it makes me look more guilty. So what can I do but ignore it? And then you have 500 people following around for 3 years asking you to clear up the cuck article. And then you have to yell at Sydney Watson. Lose your career, open up a health food business, start it all again. Get a new girlfriend for your girlfriend or your wife now. I'm not going down that route. So it's like, yeah, I'll just... the barista with the Pinterest channel. Do you have another 4 hours? Where are we going with this? Okay, we're switching over emotional pillar now. Oh, right. I was doing it at the end to put him an ad.
So I used to be a pretty strong feminist. I've actually become a feminist again. Feminists, though, can be some of the worst people you'll ever meet. They can be like some of the most nasty. They'll take advantage of contradictory world values, right? Worldview, which is that like I'm talking about like psychology and mental health for men, and yet I'm in a field that like is overly feminized and shoving drugs down men's throat. And I'm like, and I'm still recommending it because I don't want to lose like the baby out with the bathwater. Just because not all therapists are well trained to work with men. Just because a lot of therapists might even be biased against particularly like incel type men. If they hear misogynistic language at all, they might like shut you down. So and it was just difficult because I didn't want to be like super like nasty and mean or anything.
Shaking my damn head. Anyways, the emotional pillar. Guys aren't supposed to have emotions. You're not supposed to cry in front of your girl. That's not what I'm talking about. The emotional pillar is like an understanding that we're human, right? We're humans, we're failable. Got an itch. We're humans, we're failable, right? We can't do everything. Some things are very easy. Very easy when somebody else is doing it. This guy is ruining his life and you can spot it. You're like, dude, you got to leave that girl. She's abusing you or something like that, right? But when you're there's a whole bunch of emotional shit that prevents you from seeing clearly. And that's like your learned helplessness. If you've been battered by a wife for so long that you don't even think about it as anything except for that's what attention means, yeah, you're going to have a hard time standing up for yourself. You've never done it. Your whole identity is built against it. And that's not a logical thing. That's an emotional thing. That's an instinctive thing. So to understand that makes a big difference. Same as the idea that men are being raised by women now. You know, dads are out of the workforce. Now that men are mostly not farmers, men are mostly not home while their kids are being raised. That has an effect. Men are being raised by women, women's sensibilities, women parenting strategies. You're basically gaslit your whole life to respond to female authority. A lot of things can be based on that. And I'm not going to get into the weeds on this because I don't want to get political or anything, but you see what I'm talking about. So when you think, God, one sec. I don't know why I'm going to die, but ugh. So when you see a lot of guys, they're making these stupid mistakes. Maybe I'll just switch over to caffeine number 2. Oh, there we go. That's better. Caffeine number 2 for the win. When you see them making a lot of these mistakes, like getting with a girl that's objectively bad for them, putting up with a girl that cheats on him when he's got nothing to lose, willing to put up with abuse because he wants to see his kids and tuck them in at night, all this stuff. And they're like, why won't, and he'll fight you on it. The whole don't red pill your friends. That's all emotional pillar stuff. And really the issue there is just understanding that you're not a machine. You're not 100% logical. You can't just think your way out of problems. Sometimes there is an emotional, there is a psychological, there is a hardwired DNA reason that you're not doing what you could be doing or should be doing, and to accept it and work around it. I wrote on killology for that. Like, what's killology? It was in World War I, World War II, they were finding a lot of force projection was combat ineffective, shooting at people and not shooting people, not properly. Because people don't want to kill people. I don't want to shoot somebody. You don't want to shoot somebody. Well, how do you get them to shoot somebody when you need them to shoot somebody? And so they found the way to get around that emotional, what's the word I'm looking for? Guardrail. That emotional guardrail is to like just bypass it completely. Just shoot at targets that look like silhouettes of people. So you're not associating shooting with shooting a person. You're shooting at a silhouette. So when you see a person out in the field, that's a silhouette. You shoot at that. The combat range for like a lot of our weapons, military weapons, they were kind of designed to function at the kind of range where this becomes more effective than being able to see the whites of their eyes kind of stuff, right? So the more they could detach and dehumanize opponents, the easier it was to project force. And combat effectively increased substantially. Now, if it works for killing people, it could surely work for standing up to your bitchy wife, you know? So we did the same thing. We applied the concept of killology to sexual dynamics. And that's where a lot of like the women am I right kind of stuff, like Bergamy and the shitting on women things, the misogyny, that kind of comes into play where it's like, all right, it's just a bitch, whatever. Fuck 'em. And then you realize too, at your point, like I'm supposed to feel like this. I've been raised my entire life by my single mom. All my teachers have been women. yeah, I'm going to feel awkward about doing this thing. But just by understanding why you're feeling awkward about standing up for yourself, knowing it's a normal thing, it's expected, means then you can push against it and not have that existential dread that happens. So it becomes, instead of just being an instinct that you cannot fight against, it becomes like a diet. Yeah, instinctively, we want to eat. But we kind of know, yeah, I can cut some weight. I can put down the ho-hos. I can not eat today. I can take a 24-hour fast. That's going against your instinct. So it's possible once you detach from those same mechanisms that get you there. And that's largely what the emotional pillar is about. That is the difficult one. That's the one that gets people mad, because that's when you're fucking with people's worldview, people's frames. Like, I thought frame was a good thing. Frame is a thing. You can have a good frame. Even the most cucked, supplicative, beta male, whatever you want to call him, even that guy has a frame, and it's a very strong frame. He will fight you to the death over it. It's an absolutely self-destructive frame, but it is a frame. It's always been the goal, like, for guys with frame, to have a frame that's your mental point of origin. In other words, like, I come first. How does this affect me? How does this improve my situation in a fundamental way? And am I paying a cost that I can live with for it? I'm not paying too much. I'm not paying too little. I mean, too little, who cares? But see what I mean? To get that, but with the same irrational self-confidence as a guy who's blowing his life up and will not let you talk him out of it. Ross the Skunk, $5. I stopped my game for $5, Mr. Jones. Too funny. You know what? We already used it, so we'll give you... Who can we make fun of? I'm going to give you something. I want to give you something for doing the $5 one. Oh, wait, where'd it go? I know which one to give you. Yeah.
I don't usually post pictures of my kids online, but they're infants and you can barely see them, so, you know, it's fine. But a YouTuber named Ryan Stone tweeted, showing off the F trophies for clout. So the babies are trophies that I'm showing off. It's perhaps not a surprise that a picture of a proud father would be so upsetting to the sort of man who clearly never had one.
I had 2 fathers, you fucking idiot. Beard motherfucker. All right. I work 2 shitty jobs. Red morning is my only chance to make a difference. Oh, thank you very much, sir. That doesn't make any sense, but I'll take it. It speaks well of me, so I'll go with it. So anyways, that's, what do we got here? Oh, we're still nice and early. We can have some bands. I was expecting this to take the full 2 hours, but we're like an hour 15 into it. So. Yeah, so you get these things together, and to what purpose? And the purpose is, like, those guys who always speak tough about, I want to be an alpha male, I want to be this, I want to be that. They always had these high-minded visions of their mission and their goals. But you were like, dude, you don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. Stop talking about how you're going to buy yourself a supercar. And then you realize, like, these things kind of form a nice stable base. So when you got your physical stuff on point, you're attractive, you're charming, you look good. You know, you look good enough. You speak well enough. You're hygienically good enough. Your style's good enough. Your game's good enough. The intellectual side, you understand the rules as they stand right now. Not the way you want them to be, but the way they are. And then the emotional side, you understand what are your limitations. You understand what are your setbacks. You understand where your instincts actively work against you. Is this a vestige of my instincts that used to work in a different time, a different place, or even as little as a couple years ago? Or is this a genetic advantage or an emotional advantage that works out now? So to make these differentials, and then, like, how can I avoid the things that I know I'm going to fail at because I'm not very good at and there's nothing going to change about that? How do I improve in the things that I can? You know, very Serenity Prayer-ish. Once you get all these things together, it turns out all of those vision statements, those missions, those military grade visions become a lot more attainable, you know? Like, there's guys in the Patreon that were just, you know, like lawyers, and they're okay, but now they're like, holy shit, I'm crushing it. Promotion, escalation to good places. There's business guys, same thing. My business is doing well. Now there's some guys, like the economy, the way it's going right now, they're like running into hard times, but at the very least, they're approaching it with that same vision that came from having all of their fundamentals in place. All right, times are tough right now. How do I cut to the minimum? How do I build this again? What do I do here? And then they still find it's like, yeah, I was gonna just cut off and never date again. But it's like, you know what? Sometimes like a good little slump buster is a good way to get through the hard times, you know? But that's the point. It's not about life will always get better, but you have at least a fundamental understanding about why things are going the way they are, and you're able to make the best of your worst situations. It's the safety net. Rolo's my favorite article of his that nobody references, the safety net. A lot of this red pill stuff was not about never having a problem in your life, but it's understanding the problem and why it's there, understanding your contributions to it, understanding that sometimes these things happen, and a way to get past them. And so that prevents you from wanting to start a shotgun. You know what I mean? Okay, so Ross the Skunk did $5. I stopped my game for $5, Mr. Jones. King Rob 555 with another $5 heartfelt FU of a super chat. Couch in the Martha loving house. The emotion pillar is tough but fun too. Thank God for negative inquiry, assertion, fogging, and a green amplify. Yeah, to be fair, the part that's best about those tools is it's the same thing. It's killology, right? The wife is tapping into something that's emotionally like a thumbscrew for me. I normally freak out and start yelling and stomping my feet and whatever. Causes a lot of problems. We start communicating more, and then I'm sitting out here doing chores and she's not getting laid, and now nobody's happy. So when you got these tools, they're like, yeah, just if you're in this situation, if she's accusing you of stuff, negative inquiry. Why would you ask that? You know, fogging. I could see how you'd feel that way. Agree and amplify. Oh, wow. Thank God. I was worried for a second there you were turning into your mother. And the beauty of those is if you make those your instinctive tools to use during these emotionally charged moments where you otherwise would fail and fall into your wife's frame, or your any girl's frame, really, you find the outcomes better. It's not so much that you said the right tool for the right job. It's that you said something that wasn't an unforced error. And it's just it's wonderful. So it's training wheels. And then eventually you realize you don't need them anymore, or they're just so like instinctive now you don't even think about it as a green amplify. It's just like, oh, wife's being crazy, and so you say some crazy shit back to laugh it up because, hey, she's gonna be crazy and insane and sad now. I might as well at least have some fun. You know what I mean? What, you're gonna get madder? You can't get madder. You're babbling, you're crying, you're freaking out. What, you gonna throw a plate? I need new plates anyway. Get out of my house, you plate throwing bastard. Ross the Skunk, $5.10 super chat. Look at you going above and beyond. The 80s called and they want their shirt back, Couch. Hey, I'll have you know, denim has never left the Canadian spirit. There's not much left of Canada right now. We're the Rhodesia, the Rhodesia without the dignity of a bush war. But we will always have the Canadian tuxedo. But thank you very much, sir. What can I say? Colored aviator shades, by the way, are a very 90s thing as well. Those maybe due for a comeback. I saw the Iron Man, he had those for a bit there. And I was like, oh, look at that. Colored sunglasses are coming back. No, they're not. No, they're not. Yeah, plus it stops you from instinctively saying something that's validation seeking. That's part of the emotional thing, too. You realize a lot of what you do and a lot of what you say and the way you've been raised and the way you've been trained and the way everybody acts is that everything you say is to get validation from other people, reaffirmations of the things that you value. And a lot of like the emotional pillar is just learning. I don't need them to validate it. As long as I get what I'm trying to get, I don't care if they like me. I don't care if they respect me, as long as they comply. And if they don't comply, then I need to make a decision. Is what I'm asking for not worth it? Or is their relationship with me not worth it? And then there's some hard decisions to make. And again, it's emotional. Guys have been raised to be like defective women, and women hate constricting their social circle. And so they will keep around an absolutely horrible person because losing a friend on Facebook is just untenable. Meanwhile, as a guy, it's like, fuck everybody. I'm going out in the woods. You know? Denim and plaid are Canadian staples like shitty beer and maple syrup. We actually have an official plaid, too. It's like a red and black and brown and green and yellow, I think. It's not bad looking. It was one of those things I did for a while. You look up your last name. If you have British ancestry, you can find out if you have like a family plaid or a tartan. Oh, that's kind of cool. I looked up mine, and there's like bog versions of it. I guess I don't know how it works, but I guess a lot of people, like, they die in battle, they get stuck in the bogs in Scotland, and then the tartans would change their colors. They're like, that's our bog tartan. You're like, all right, fair enough, whatever. I just ordered my blue blockers off the infomercial. Fucking Marty. Anyways, so we're gonna do some bants now. We're ahead of time. We get to goof around. We get to joke. Just remember this: the basics of frame. Frame come from a concept of frame control. Frame control was the underlying assumptions that happen when people were interacting with other people. It is your worldview. It is your reality. It is how you perceive. It is how you navigate. It is everything in relation to how you interact with the outside world. You're not changing the underlying reality, but oftentimes the frame from which you approach it fundamentally changes how your outcomes will be. For better or for worse. Frame is not a health bar. You can't hold frame while your wife's nagging at you and then you slowly lose frame. Frame is who you are. Like, I can tell you the earth is flat 500 times, nag you the most incessant ways ever. If you have frame, you're like, the earth is not flat. Shut up. Doesn't matter how many times I pester and badger you. So if I can somehow convince you that it's flat, then you're not. And you don't have frame. Same thing here. The family stone crest, maple syrup and cocaine on it. No. Actually, you know what? I'm not even going to say that because then it'll kind of give away the meme. But it's neat because my last name was a derivative of a trade craft. Like smith is like an anvil, like a blacksmith. It's kind of like one of those things. My name is actually George Miller. I thought you should know. So we were farmers, millers, millwrights. I'm just kidding. Has anybody here tried NLP by Ross Jeffrey? You know what? I know there's a lot of guys that swear by it. I know a lot of like the pickup stuff was big on it. I'm all up for training wheels, like use it for fun, learn about astrology, palm reading, psychological tricks like the cube. I'm all for it. I find NLP kind of falls into that realm. And the reason I don't like it is because it has an overt manipulation to it, where it's like, oh, I can manipulate people into thinking something, like programming them linguistically. So even if it is true, I find just the way it's framed as if it's like a way to manipulate somebody into loving you forever. And yeah, I get it. That's not what Ross Jeffries was trying to say, but that's how a lot of people are interpreting it. So I find it to be detrimental if you get too hardcore into it. So like casual NLP, great. Hardcore, hyper fixated 10 out of 10 NLP, I find it's fairly cringe. Like I said, it's just treat it like astrology. It's a fun little thing. It's a good way to have some bants. It's a good training wheel while you play around with stuff, but I would always remember at the end of this that wrestling isn't real, and neither is NLP. Covert contract, eh? Yeah. Because let's face it, here's the thing too, even if it was 100% right, you were able to neuro-linguistically program people to think of how you want, humans are a very adaptive species. It's like marketing. Somebody will find some perfect marketing zeitgeist that just like people are compelled to buy when you use it. Then everybody uses it, and then people no longer respond to it. And so even if NLP is the keystone to a perfect love life with no problems, as soon as it becomes popular, everybody will adapt to it, and then it will stop working. Something else will have to happen. That's just the way people work. We're always on an arms race. An arms race. The greatest sword meets the greatest shield, develops a new sword, which develops a new shield, and that's just the way it works. Men were physically dominant, so we could take girls physically, and they can't stop us. So girls learned how to manipulate guys, and learned to get guys to defend them against other guys. And so those guys found out that they got laid by being better protectors. But then girls figured out, hey, all these guys want to be protectors. I can use them to get me the guys that I want and fuck them over. And then those guys realize they're being lied to, and so they develop ways to defend against deception. And then girls learned how to be emotional because, hey, it's not a lie if you believe it, Jerry. And I'm paraphrasing, but this really is the advancement of the sexual arms race. We're at that point now where women are able to lie to themselves, which effectively allows them to lie to us, and then us falling for it, which is where As a guy, your defensive mechanism there is more of a dismissive, rational, right? Yeah, she says this. Yeah, she believes this, but I don't care. She's just a woman, and I know what's right. You know what I mean? That's really the only defense around it. Ross the Skunk, $5 1 super chat. Favorite kayfabe, Roddy Piper, Macho Man, Savage, etc. To be fair, okay, we're gonna do wrestling. I mean, we kind of hit all the topics here, so I'll do another summary at the end. But what I loved about the old school guys, the 70s guys like Ric Flair, like Roddy Piper, is they had a personality, they had a flavor, and when they were fighting, like you could see a bunch of luchadors in masks, but if he fought like Ric Flair, you would recognize Ric Flair. If you fought like Roddy Piper, you would recognize him. And sometimes it was just little gimmicks. Like I remember Piper's, my favorite one of his was always the same thing. At one point they'd be knocked down, he'd get like a 2 count, didn't get the 3 count off of him, so Piper would look up and he'd go like this, and you're like 2, and he poke you in the eye, and you're like, of course he's cheap. Ric Flair is the same thing. He always had that thing where like you're beating his ass, and then he's like, no, they gotta stop, and then the guy would show a little bit of mercy and he'd punch him in the nuts. There was always the back scrapes and stuff like that, and he was always good at selling the pain, and he's fought very cheaply. It's stuff like that I just loved. Yeah, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, he had his whole like, I'm just gonna Gronk my way through this stuff. Yeah, Bret Hart was about technical excellence, but that was his character, his arc, his whole wrestling style reflected that. Same as Mr. Perfect. He and Mr. Perfect were basically the same archetype. Technical excellence. The problem is now, I watched SmackDown a couple weeks ago, and I was like, what have they done? What have they done? They've killed my boy. And it's like everybody is trying to be a Bret Hart variation. Everybody is pretty. Everybody's dressed mostly the same. I had a hard time telling people from each other, and I get it. Nobody wants to wear pink spandex anymore, but like, I'm fine with that. You want to dress up as a fucking voodoo priest? A millionaire Texan with a slave? Like, go for it, man. The Repo Man, IRS. He's a tax collector, but he whoops ass. The Scholar, remember that? Came in like he was graduating from high school, but then he'd punch you in the head. Doink the Clown. Say what you will about how goofy they are, but like, at least letting us know the suspension of disbelief is there. I think it went a long way. Like now everybody's kind of like branding. CM Punk, which I don't hate him, but it's kind of like everybody's trying to be CM Punk now, where he's like meta and he understands and he's winking at the audience, and it's like a technical wrestler trying to, and it's like, does everybody have to be a babyface? Everybody? Really? Yeah, I introduced my kid to wrestling. We only watch the classics. My boy loves Undertaker. Yeah, Undertaker is like such an amazing thing. What is he? Oh, he's the Undertaker. Well, what does that mean? Well, he can't be harmed because he has the power of the urn. Jesus, that's pretty bad. Yeah, until one day Hulk Hogan grabbed the urn, dumped the dirt out of it, and then cracked Undertaker over the head with it. And then he was actually able to be beaten. You're like, wow, cool. Yeah, you don't see a lot of that anymore. It's funny too, because I remember, and I'll get to strippers super chat here in a sec, when was it Jackie Chan or Jet Li? I want to say it was Jackie Chan. Yeah, it was, because it was his autobiography, or biography, which is the one where you rate yourself, autobiography, where he was talking about how the communist China ruined martial arts. Because he goes, it used to be you could watch somebody fight, and just by how they fight, you could tell what part of the country they were from. Oh, he's from Shenzhen. Oh, he's from Shanghai. Oh, this guy's from the south. This guy's north. And he's like, everybody's kung fu had a flavor to it, and you could tell who was who. But now the problem is with the communist thing is that it's all being kind of simplified and homogenized. And so now he's like, everybody's just doing the same kung fu, and it's like, it's missing the flavor that made it good. And I think wrestling has gone that same route as communist China, which technically, culturally, the world has gone that direction. I hate that when we circumnavigated the globe in 2008, 2009, my one buddy, very fussy eater, he always wanted to eat. He's like, I'm eating at Subway. I don't care. He found a Subway in Panama. He found a Subway in Italy. He found a Subway in Croatia. He found one in Thailand. It's like we could travel around the world. Went to Chennai, India, and found a Subway. It's just annoying how no matter where he went, he could live exactly like he was living at home. And I'm like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's smart, but I'm like, if I'm in India, I'm going to try and survive some street meat. So I had street vendor food. Probably won't do that again. But at the time, it's like, whatever, you only live once. Well, you never had a little danger in your life? These guys don't give a fuck. There was a garbage truck driving on the highway, and there was like 30 Indians hanging off the side of the thing, and it's twisting corners. The suspension was all messed. I'm like, what in the Keystone Cops is that? Meanwhile, my tuk-tuk driver driving a rusted-out tuk-tuk, his gums are bleeding. He's missing teeth. He's like, it's just the way it is. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Why did the British stay here for 400 years? I wouldn't have lasted 2 weeks. And I didn't. After a week, I'm like, I'm fucking out. Fuck this. Where were we going with this one? Oh, the kayfabe stuff. Anyways, yeah. So stripper with the $5 heartfelt. You know what? That's like the 7th one. You guys want this? Fine. You want more heartfelt? Fine. Enjoy your fucking heartfelt, you greedy bastards.
So the meme, they're very good. This is really, they've taken it.
True Alpha.
Named Ryan Stone.
It says, ask Murphy about the article he wrote, cuckolding his wife. Clear up the cuck article. Clear up the cuck article.
Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me?
If I wasn't prepared to literally impoverish his entire bloodline.
I am now concerned for my career.
And I still recommend
Clear up the cuck article.
You know what? Fuck you for bringing this up. Yeah. Fuck you. Heartfelt.
I'm not going to have those guys back on my channel again. Absolutely not.
Just use a little bit of fucking common sense.
It is just.
That's great. That's you should.
Fuck you.
Sorry, apologies.
Just keep going, dude. One foot in front of the other. Before you know it, this will all be in the rearview mirror. Fuck you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. A greater gift one could never have given me. The memes are pretty good. I like Commodus here. In India, food trucks and garbage trucks are the same thing. That's not true, sir. The garbage trucks don't haul garbage. They just leave those in the river. Anyways, moving on from this one. So not red pill, but I found that learning to accept your emotions as a data point, nothing more, nothing less, is easier to respond to rather than react. Well, I mean, that's literally the pinnacle of the emotional pillar. So it's absolutely red pill. Absolutely. Don't sell yourself short, sir. You know what you're doing. Yeah. I agree. It's all wrestling. Everybody has their persona until they go home. And that's the thing that gets me now. So, yeah, we're on the bants section. I'm going to make a timestamp of this. So what you guys are like, is he going to rant again? Yes. Yes, he is. Oh, that's last week's timestamps. It's so weird how, I don't know what Microsoft did with the new Windows, but Notepad never leaves. They never delete. As soon as I open up Notepad again, 18 sets of notes from 6 months ago keep popping up. It's just crazy. It's like Google Chrome when he's like, you want your tabs back? And you're like, no. All right, here you go. And you're like, fuck. That Nani gets me every time. Ross the Skunk, thank you very much. Yeah. Most people respond to the, why are you doing this to me bit? But, Nani? That gets you too. I try to make them all very, very entertainment dense. Are you doing someone on Orion for Lord of the Rings month? No, I don't know what the fuck Lord of the Rings month is. To be fair, oh yeah, that's right. So before we get into the rant about the kayfabe thing, the King of New York is coming Sunday. I gotta pull this up because I can't remember. I'm actually pretty good about getting a system together so I can get kind of ahead of the game. The whole month is already scheduled out and ready to go. There it is. So King of New York is coming out on Sunday. Probably for all you guys that are like, New Jack City was awesome. I love fucking crack crime thrillers. You're like, dude, this is the old school one. You're going to love it. Next week, Sunday, Ghost in the Shell. Week after that, Kickboxer. Week after that, Death Wish. And I think after that, I am doing Macross Plus and then Aeon Flux, the old animated series. So Macross Plus, I've got all the filming and that done. I just need to do the editing on that one. That's going to be good. I really enjoy it. The fact that Bryan Cranston's in it. I just wish he started Dream On with Brian Ben, but we'll get there. Chad of Arabia, 25 stars. By the way, can I just laugh how Chad, your currency is the exact same as like the old, hey, hello, sir. It's funny. Yeah, Notepad uses multiple tabs and will save them if you don't outright delete. It's fucking annoying. I watched Ghost in the Shell. Good stuff. Cartoon violence. The thing I didn't realize about Ghost in the Shell is it's not a movie. It's a short film. And I was like, how did they get all the way to 90 minutes? And that's when I realized how it works. It is a short film wrapped in Kino. And I was like, how awesome is that? They turned the cyberpunk aesthetic. And you'll notice that just like randomly. Like they'll be assassinating a political diplomat in a space, and then they'll just add a 5-minute shot of like beautiful Kino. Or there's a terrorist that's running away and trying to escape. And then all of a sudden a plane flies overhead, another 5 minutes of Kino. And you're like, damn. Every now and then they're just like, take a break. It's a very intense plot. Just sit down, relax. We'll put on some of that goofy Buddhist music we do. You can watch the fancy things go by, and you can just feel it. And I was like, which is funny because you never thought just like 17 intermissions would work for a short animated film, and it absolutely does. Like they work so well, you don't even notice that they're pausing the plot to give you a moment to sit back and fucking enjoy life. I'm like, well done, sirs. Well done. We go into Armitage 3. No. Because I don't know that one. Is there a real question on this one? How proficient should men be in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint as a general rule? You probably should be a little proficient. If you're working in anything, you need it. Like even me, I still use spreadsheets. I have to do my taxes. Technically, my ability to set up XML schemas and APIs was helpful in getting my girl her job, teaching her that stuff. I just needed that for EVE Online to do market trading. I didn't really care. But it's kind of like anything. If you find there's needs for it, you don't learn it. But I couldn't give you a number. It's 17% more important than you think. Ross the Skunk, $5.10. Aeon Flux was awesome. I bought it on DVD, the MTV one. Yeah, like there was... For a while there, we thought there was going to be a renaissance of American animation, like in the 70s and 80s. Ralph Bakshi and the rotoscope stuff looked like, oh, we're back. And then it kind of went away. And then I think it was Warner Brothers came with like the Iron Giant, and there was those like the non-Disney ones, and that was going to be there for a bit, and then that kind of went away. And then Aeon Flux with like that edgy, hyper stylized. It was like America's version of anime, and I thought, that's it. We're there, man. And it just, for some reason, it just keeps popping up and then dying off. It's like we just can't commit to the bit. But what I loved about it is, and this is one of those things I find is my aesthetic preferences, it's very non sequitur. Like things just happen because that's fucked up. And it's there to suspend disbelief. Like I was expecting this. Nope. Something else. Like I remember the one Aeon Flex episode that I can remember was Aeon cloned herself, and she told her clone, I'm going to go and infiltrate the main guy's base, and you're going to help me out when we have our plan to steal from him and all this shit. So the main chick goes and falls in love with the main baddie. And then they're going to like leave it all behind. The crime stuff's all done. And then the clone comes in with the plan, like, you're going to kill me to fucking hurt him. And she knew she was doing it. She's like, I know the plan, but I just love him so much. And so she kills him, steals the thing, runs off. And I was like, what a fucked up plot. That's awesome. I love things that are like different and interesting and novel. I like it because it's like, if I just wanted to see the same thing, there's always a best version of the same thing. Like this is why I hate, okay, we're going to talk about the right-wing artists now. You know how the right-wing guys are like, how come you don't fund my stuff the way they fund left-wing art? And it's like, well, make better art. And it's kind of, every one of them, I'm noticing makes the same issue, is that they don't make something new. They make a pastiche of something old. I've made some recommendations on here before. Isaac Young actually has a decent book. I kind of like it. Same as, and it's like sort of Calrathia. I always get that part mixed up, but hold up a second here. if I'm going to give him a shout out, I want to at least get the name right. Read the goddamn thing. Domes of Calrathia. That's the one. And that's neat. That's like a journey one. It's interesting if you like it. And what I liked about it is it's not the pastiche. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. So I'm not shitting on Razor Fist here, but when you watch his pulp stuff, he mostly makes a pastiche of it. A pastiche is like a crappy clone, a Timu. You want to say a pastiche, just say it's like Timo and then whatever. So most people were like, I love Westerns. And so they make a pastiche Western. Timu Western. They love noir. Film noir. And so they make a pastiche of film noir. They don't try to advance it. They don't try to synthesize it with other things. They don't change it. Like the 80s was a great example for that. They learned all the things are all troped out. So we didn't synthesize them. Predator. Let's make an American action movie. Military action in the jungle, Vietnam, all that kind of stuff. But let's synthesize it with a horror film. Friday the 13th, Predator, same plot. Same thing with Aliens. Let's make a sci-fi space adventure. Let's mix it with a horror film. Predator, Alien, same plot. Absolutely wonderful. But if you were just going to make like, I'm just going to make a horror movie like any other ones. Let's put a guy in a mask. And that's when you get the whole Mike Myers Halloween turns into Jason Voorhees. And then whatever, and then it turns into Scream. But Scream's like, yeah, but we're going to wink at the audience, which was novel at the time, but it has not stood the test of time at all. Because now everybody knows those tropes so much that just making fun of them is like, eh. Anyway, so Isaac Young is the first one. Obviously, I can never speak well enough about Devin Erickson, Deft of Fire. I do enjoy that one as far as sci-fi because he tried to make a hard sci-fi, but he accidentally made character study. How do you pass on a legacy? It's like really neat. And with the idea of Prometheus coming in there. So it's a very interesting thing. Oh, some super chats will get caught up here. Crescent Slice, $4.99 super chat. Yo, I just bought the dog walker. I can't wait for it to get here. When is the audiobook coming out? That is a good question. I don't know. I haven't started it yet. Mostly because I'm busy with other projects right now. It's not going to be as quick as I would be with like the Prac stuff where I try to get that out within like a month or two after the first one. It might be a little bit longer. Let it simmer for a bit. But yeah. Right now, I kind of enjoy having that one just as a literary work. But it'll be there. It'll be there. I've got all the, like, I've bought all the equipment, so when I'm ready to go, I can just, like, slug it out. But it is different. So it's fiction as opposed to nonfiction, so I'm going to have to work on my acting skills. I'm going to have to work on my presentation, my theatrics, my enunciations. How do I sound like a girl? Well, just do your normal voice, but make it a little bit softer. But then when you sound like a guy, you make it a little bit gruffier. Like that, right? And as long as the person has a very smooth listening experience, it'll be good. So I will let you know. Subscribe to the Substack. Anything that I'm working on, anything that's coming out, that's the first and best place to find out. Even if you don't read the emails, even if you don't care about Softbone and New Kowloon and the Cyberpunk, even if you don't care about the case studies, at the very least, when you subscribe to the newsletter on the free one, you will get updates when new stuff is happening. If you're like, oh, I want to see when the next praxeology is coming out, that's where you'll find it. If I want to see when the next fiction's coming out, that's where you'll find it. If I want to hear about audiobooks, that's where you find it. If I end up moving to the States, that's where you're going to find out. Yeah, that's the one episode I remember from Aeon Flux. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's funny how the one that sticks in our minds is always those. There's always those ones there because it was just like, yeah. Anyways, Dark Knight Dev, $5.01 super chat. What I see in wrestling is tying stories together and emoting like Cena did last week. The booker is reacting to the fans instead of manipulating them. Audience capture, yeah, giving them what they want. I think that's the worst thing for like kayfabe is giving the audience what they want. Because they don't know, people don't know what they want. They only know what they like, what they respond to. So you have to, like I said, hate your audience a little bit. Anyways, back to this. The kayfabe thing. I was noticing with the politics, like Trump. Absolutely a master of kayfabe. Master of it. Because if you think about it, what's happened? Like there's, what's his name? Tracing, it's Twitter people. So cut me some slack that I don't remember their names. Tracing Hillbilly, Tracy something. Tracing. Should be better at this than I am. A lot of responses to stuff. An Aijin robot tracing Woodward. Anyways, it's a bunch of random. It's like those bigger, like intellectual dark web rationalist Twitter people, and they're talking about this Trump, like with Trump derangement syndrome. Oh my God, the new world order is over. Everything is changing. And when you take a step back and you realize the theatrics of it, it's like, yeah, what's really changed? Did you see how he treated Zelensky in front of all those cameras? I'm like, yeah, I did. And that'll let you in on something. He did it in front of the cameras. That's for you. He's not talking to Zelensky. He's talking to you. Zelensky's not talking to Trump. He's talking to Europe. This is all an act. It's for you. The whole giving him a blast of shit. And there's a bunch of theories as what could have happened. Some of them are more plausible than others. Like, guaranteed, behind the scenes, Trump has talked to Russia and sorted out some things, maybe come up to some kind of deals. Probably even talked to Zelensky behind the scenes, like, it's the way things are going to go, whatever. Europe's probably got their own plans. Oh, dude, they're loving to jump on this Zelensky train because it, like, hides their abysmal immigration and economic policies. Like, I laugh right now. Britain can't even put 5,000 troops on the ground when they try. And, like, I don't get it. None of the Brits are signing up. It's like, who wants to just defend your migrant policy? Migrants aren't signing up. Yeah, they don't give a shit. They just want the welfare. Like, in a horrible situation here. It's like, I don't know what to tell you. Ross the Skunk. Oh, Ryan, find it wherever fine podcasts are sold. Absolutely, sir. Anyways, but what's really happened? Trump has cut off a bunch of foreign aid. That was a grift. It's not some fundamental thing. Yeah, somebody finds an example of like people in the Congo with AIDS, but nobody gave a shit about that. Nobody even knows if it's effective. They just know what it intended to do. And I guarantee you it didn't. America wanted to fix AIDS, they'd have bombed it long ago. Yeah, so that's it. He cut off some funding and he's firing a bunch of federal employees. That's it. And it's not even like we're running out of federal employees. There has been such a giant influx of federal employees in the last 4 years that he's mostly just culling back those ones. It might get worse. So is it a bad thing? Maybe, maybe not. Everybody's talking about the consequences of this. Like, they know how the complexities of a 350 million person democracy, like, they don't know. Everybody's just speculating and they're just showing their bias. But that's the point. All this was in front of the camera. You know what's good camera work? A good heel work. Get everybody emotionally invested in hating the heel. Oh, it's good heel work. Trump's doing some great heel work for the progressives, and he's doing great babyface work for conservatives. But fundamentally, not a lot is changing. Like, everybody's bitching and complaining about tariffs. I think they only just started. It's mostly been talk about tariffs, and stock market is going down and people are freaking out. Trudeau's crying on the fucking camera again. I'm like, bro, I remember when you called us all Nazis and then stomped us with horses because we dared to ask you, hey, can we work for a living and not collect stimmy checks? It's like, that's it. Bring me the shock troops. And now he's out there crying because he loves Canada. Like, fuck you. It's all pro wrestling. He's not really crying. He probably put eye drops in. It's like, pinched himself in the nuts, made himself cry. They don't give a shit. Nobody gives a shit. And then all the people that are crying right now, it's like, relax. The biggest change I can think of right now is Ontario has taken American booze off the shelves temporarily. But since there's this Indian gang that's been stealing booze from all the LCBOs for this whole time, there's clearly a black market for bourbon now. So, make a law, invent a business. What can I tell you? Yeah, worse is a container word too. That's my favorite thing when people start talking like that. I'm like, this is so much worse. I'm like, worse than what? Worse in which way? Worse compared to what? Like, define terms. What do you mean by worse? I've never seen anybody respond, ever. Nobody, just to define terms. That's, if you ever wanted to like win internet arguments, ask somebody to define his terms and he will shut the fuck up. That's the easiest way to get the last word. Please explain yourself. I don't understand. I'm not going to do that. All right, fair enough. Anyways, so the Orion's coming through, so let's enjoy some of the Orion clips and the stuff that's been out.
I tolerate no resistance. Fairly evenly matched.
Do you love gratuitous nudity? Do you love a good science fiction story? Do you love comedies?
What is the cube root of 3,264.5?
Did you ever think Monty Python was great, but wish it had more spaceships and mommy milkers?
That's normal where I come from.
How about a movie with gratuitous nudity, just because it's awesome? Do you yearn for that perfect blend in an amusing comedy romp? Stories that are so simple they border on nonsensical.
That's right, Sonny. Put your money in, I sort out your hang-up.
A movie that takes a basic premise. Brits on a night out who get kidnapped by aliens that all look like British women and turns it into high art.
He's got one of the most advanced bodies in the universe.
It's 1979, at the peak of the Cold War. Nuclear annihilation from incompetent pink commies seems right around the corner, and sometimes guys just needed a release. I don't know if the cast is any good.
You can't win them all, kiddo.
I don't know what the director did besides this, and honestly, I don't care.
Oh, and be careful. It's extremely dangerous.
One of the girls is Ava Cadell, best-selling author, and she was in Commando with Arnold for gratuitous nudity, which is awesome.
What's that? Have you got a weapon down there?
They don't make movies like this anymore. It's got nudity, jokes, science fiction, and 90 minutes of pure fun. Did I mention the nudity? Yeah, back in the day, you could have a sex scene as long as you didn't show the baby-making bits.
Please. There, I got a lovely exposure.
You could also make it funny. Kids these days don't know how to laugh at a good boob joke. But that changes today. It's the timeless story of Britain. It's the classic humor your dad grew up with.
It's growing!
It's a hidden gem. And it actually has a good story if you bother to pay attention, though you probably won't. It's Spaced Out, 1979.
You have one of the most advanced bodies in the universe. Do you feel better, Ollie?
What?
It's not fair.
People have been watching that now too. It's hard to find, but if you find it, it's hilarious. It's like way funnier than you would expect. Boobs and laughing, such a great combination. James S. $10 super chat. Couch. PI. Can I please play Bruno? All right, let me pull it up. I forgot all about that one. What do I call that? It's the Manosphere Morning. Where did I have it? Bear with me a second. I've got like a list of 50 things here. Gotta find the right one. No, it's not that one. Not the Substitute, not Six String Samurai, not Tex. Field Report. Oh. Frame, Fuck Files, Dread, Gattaca, Rambo, King of the Kickboxers, Matt Walsh, Erudite. Oh, there she is. Here you go, sir. This is for you, James. Thank you for the $10 super chat. Let's enjoy some. There she is.
Ryan Stone, another.
It is just.
Oh my god.
If you're a young man, you need to figure out what you're trying to do with your life, you need to subscribe to this goddamn channel.
What the fuck?
Megan Fox with a dick, or Hulk Hogan with a pussy.
Mel time. It's Mel time.
Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me?
Do you see that Waffle House there? There's murderers in there.
You have to conclude that Trump betrayed us.
Socially retarded fat.
Seething.
Don't work with retard.
He's a halfway decent looking guy, a nice smile, can be a gentleman, snarky as even in person, yet he blocks me and talks shit about. Somebody find out their real names for me.
Dude, I don't know how anybody wants to leave the manosphere. It's a laugh riot. It's a curmudgeon paradise. The amount of like emotional instability and amazing comedy gold here. I don't think I'll ever have my like I'm leaving. I'm doing fiction now. I'm kind of moving away from the whole sex dynamic stuff. But it's like I'm never leaving because what am I gonna find? What do you think the Warhammer haters are this entertaining? Do you think like the daily like do you think even do you know how hard it was to make Matt Walsh comedic? He's got no comedic timing whatsoever. He is the dourest, wettest blanket, the most somber person in the history of Earth. And I had to work my ass off just to get that. I'm not going to lean in on those political types. They're joyless, soulless people. Soulless people. No sense of humor. They go for the jugular. Here's Morgan. There's nothing funny about watching him babble like a woman at all. You'd have thought somebody yelling at Pearl would entertain you, but no. He yells at Pearl and all you do is feel pity. Not for Pierce, not for Pearl, but for yourself, for wasting your time watching it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I can't leave this. Can't leave this. Because there's going to be a brand new unhinged psychopath out there who's going to threaten me and help give me advertisements. And I'm here for it. It's awesome. I'm here for it. It's awesome. Ross the Skunk, $2 super chat. You son of a bitch, we're in the memes now, huh? If you grow that stash, you'll be Magnum Couch. To be fair, if I grow my mustache, I will be Salvador Dali. It does not grow in the middle here. It's pencil thin, and it handlebars amazingly. I don't know if you've ever seen. I had a photo of it where it curls right up. So yeah, I'll be your 1916 pugilist. That's the thing with the stash. Our tards are the best tards. It's not they're the best tards. It's that they're the most expressive and they give you the most material to work with. It is like honey and manna, or milk and land of milk and honey. Manna falling from the sky, except for the manna drops an F-bomb from his Toyota Tacoma and calls you a socially retarded kid. You know what I mean? How can I give that up? And then like as I'm writing books, I need ideas, and these people are a never-ending supply of it. Why don't I make a guy in a Toyota Tacoma that just hates his family? Like, that'd be great. What are you gonna base that on? I have an idea. Oh, I love that shit. The wet blanket is the only thing that gets wet around Rawls. Isn't that the meme though about the Daily Wire guys? Like, wasn't there a Ben Shapiro tweet that he gave out a little while ago saying women don't get wet? My wife has never gotten wet for me, so don't tell me that the female orgasm exists or some weird shit like that. I don't know what it is. Like the idea that my wife won't sleep with me has turned into like the greatest cheerleading ever. Like, can you blame anybody for thinking that they're like an Israeli psyop? Because like soulless, joyless men, sexually dysfunctional, absolutely socially retarded. And it's like you have two ways to think about that. These people are the worst people ever, or somebody's paying them to be the worst people ever to psychologically batter you. And it's much easier to like I can accept the New World Order, lizard people conspiracy more than I can accept how retarded these guys are. That's why conspiracy theories work. Is it possible that George Bush was just a complete moron? Yes, but I'd rather believe that he was working with Israel to crash the towers and get an insurance scam and to melt the steel beams and to cause a controlled demolition, because at least then there's hyper competent evil people holding me down. I can live with Cobra, but I can't live with G.I. Joe having to fight against the bureaucracy, you know? Crum, $5.07 super chat. Bring back the dapper curled stash. If you know, you know. I mean, I might. Here's the thing. Yeah, I've had some looks over the years on the channel. If you've watched it, you've seen me go from high and tight to a lion's mane to a full beard to a mustache and everywhere in between. The one thing I will say though is if I have longer hair, can't have facial hair to go with it. It just looks I look too much like a homeless guy and I can't do it. Like it's been 10 years since I was in the military, but I still feel very awkward when I'm like, see that scruff the way it, and I'm like, I don't like looking homeless. I can't do it. Well, not everything is subjective. So yeah, the stash, I probably won't bring that back. But we'll see. Maybe mustaches are a new thing. Who knows? Anyway, we're running to the end. So again, with frame, don't forget. Yeah, it's been an hour since we talked about it, but it's still important. There is a good way to conceptualize the metaphor of frame. Understand its history of frame control, the idea of the underlying assumptions engaged with social interactions with other people, how you perceive reality, but it has to be tethered to reality. Easier way to conceptualize it, the red pill guys have found, is you conceptualize it as a tetrahedron. 3 legs holding up vision. What is your vision? What's your self-actualization? That's up for you to decide. But if you can have your physical game on point, dress well, look good, eat right, eat your vitamins and take your Wheaties and whatever, get the intellectual side right, you understand the way things are going right now, you understand Evo Psych, you understand the mental models, you understand everything on like a fundamental, like learning how to adult effectively level. And then the emotional side, understand your emotional hangups, understand when you've been gaslit, your psychological issues, your limitations, and to work around them whenever possible to act in your best interest against your best instincts. And then from those 3 things together, you get them fundamentally put into place, and you'll know when they're there, because then your vision seems a lot less like a pie in the sky dream and more like a pragmatic advancement. Go with that. And that's the beauty of it. And that's, once you're there, that's when you no longer need red pill. Kind of move on, do your own thing. Shit on the red pill guys if you want to. It's much better socially to say, oh, those red pill bros are morons. Nobody shits on them more than me. Aren't you like the biggest guy in there? Well, like second biggest by skill, second to last by popularity. That's fine. I can live with that. Are you telling me Hulk Hogan and George Bush were for the same NWO? Dude, I'm surprised nobody has tried to do like Bush memes. 9/11 Global War on Terror, did Generation X, like have George Bush walk out with just like the suck it, spit a bottle of water into the air. That'd be fucking awesome. Dark Knight Dev, I'm the opposite. I like being bald with 5 o'clock shadow. Right now I haven't shaved my head in 2 weeks and I'm being lazy enough not to cut it. Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, your hair's much curlier than mine, Dev. Picking is a pain in the ass. But I mean, I find it's like, my rule for clothes is 1 disheveled piece per outfit. Like, you want to look put together, but then have 1 messy piece on it just for contrast. I find it's the same thing with your face. Like, if you have scruffy hair, cleaner face. Or if you go scruffy face, cleaner hair. I find that works for me. So I think we're kind of agreeing. Okay, so he's going to hit the Red Bull guys a little because they're just giving away the juice, but I wouldn't be drinking the juice without them. Oh, yeah, they're giving it away. I think a lot of people misunderstand the business of it. We're going to end on this, by the way, because they got Rule 0 coming up in a minute. I'll see if I can redirect to them while we're at it. But everybody's always like, oh, you guys are giving this information for free? That's ridiculous. It's like, dude, okay. It's a commodity. Okay, it's Jack. And we got the redirect, so you'll go straight to there afterwards. It's a commodity. Everybody can get it. It's absolutely free. I'll make a reference to Chesty's post. Don't hate Bob Vila. And it was the idea that all these guys were learning fundamentally how to build a house from the ground up. They learned how to work with hand tools and build the house. And it was a lot of effort. It was a lot of work. It felt validating to have all that extra work. Meanwhile, Bob Vila comes out, gives these guys some condensed, like, forget all the lessons you're learning the hard way. Let's just show you the gems at the end. And he makes things very concise and very good. And he appeals to normies, and everybody's mad at Bob Vila. It's like, don't be mad at Bob Vila. With any commodity, and this information is absolutely a commodity, the value is not in the commodity. The value is in the branding. So it's really, and this is one thing I've tried to keep in mind. It's like, yeah, I could talk about frame and dread and red pill stuff all day, but ultimately it has to be presented in a way that you will find entertaining enough to want to engage with. Because like, if I'm just going to do the autistic writing down listicles of things, there's 100 people that do autism way better than me. And for those who like that dry autism of it, that's the same thing. The likability of it. I like the dry autistic level of information here. I like collecting information like infinity stones. So yeah, information is the commodity. The branding is where the effectiveness is. And to be fair, if everybody was as much about saving the West and saving men as much as they would, being personable and presenting good branding for the information that they say is so vital for men would have been forefront of their strategies, but there never are. It's like writers, and I fucking hate how I'm part of like writing. Twitter is now in my world right now, and it's like it's the same thing. Everybody wants to be a writer. Nobody wants to write anything. Everybody wants to be red pill and give out advice, but nobody wants to do proper marketing to make it like approachable and pleasing to the people that they're trying to affect. Fucking ridiculous. I think what was I'll end on this. Like the 3 funniest ones I saw from the writers was this one lady is like, "Hey, when you've had a particularly good writing day, how do you reward yourself?" I'm like, "What?" And some of the favorite answers I heard was like, "Well, time to start editing the work now." It's like, yeah, that's a good one. For me, I'm like, I'll celebrate when the book starts selling. That's a good one too. It was just amazing. Like, I wrote 1,000 words today. It's time for an ice cream and a bourbon. Like, fuck you. Another one was a guy bitching about how traditional publishing canceled somebody else because they had a bad tweet once. It's like, well, what the fuck are they offering? Oh, they don't market for you. Amazon can print stuff for you much cheaper. It's very easy to find an editor and hire an editor and get them to do that work. You can do your own art if you just learn how to do it, or at least just like aim low. What do they offer? If they don't market and all the production services that you can get elsewhere, then all they're offering you is the prestige of being part of their publishing house. But if it's at the whim of some Karen in HR canceling you, it's like, fuck off. I'm not going to give you my IP just for you to on a whim decide that, oh, he said a cuss word. I'm going to remove him from the earth. Fuck that. Dev here. So yeah, Dev, no, I don't get razor bumps. I actually have like fairly good skin that way. But I will say this. I think I don't know if it's true or not, but I think a lot of guys just don't shave properly in the African American community. Because if you get like a proper safety razor, the single blade, you warm up and prep your face properly, ingrown stuff is never a problem. It's always with electric razors, because the way they kind of tear at the fibers as opposed to cutting them clean, it makes it easier for them to curl underneath, right? But I bet you anything, if you got most guys switching to safety razors, razor blades, proper prepping of the face, single passes, probably would go away. And stay away from the 3-blade things where they pull the thing out. I think that's the other issue, is the 3-blade stuff, where the one blade grabs the hair, pulls it out, and then the second one cuts it. Because then it ends up going too far in. And then when it grows out, it gets stuck on the side, and that's when the curling and the ingrown stuff happens. Anyways, so that's it for me. Enjoy yourselves, guys. We're going to go see Jack's channel. I'm going to try and show up, but I'm not going to be there right away and have lunch with the old lady first. You're going to do one more. Where did it go? Do I have King of New York in here? Don't. All right, I'm going to add King of New York so you guys can see what's going to happen on Sunday. Then we'll do the outro. Work recordings. I have a new like 10 terabyte drive, which is awesome, so I can have my whole like thing here. New York trailer. There we go. So here's what's coming up Sunday. Feel free, subscribe. Orion 2.
Hey, yo.
Do you like action? Do you like crime? Do you like gratuitous nudity for no reason other than it's awesome? How about glorifying violence just because? Do you like a New York that would sooner steal your watch than be a hipster craft beer paradise?
Hotel. I got work for you.
Do you ever wonder what it would be like to see a movie that gives you more than just a story, but an experience? Well, wonder no more, because I have the movie for you. America just won the Cold War, and the war on crack was just getting started.
We had a deal, man. What's
We were on top of the world, and the CIA hadn't messed with it too much yet. New York had a new generation of the greatest actors you'll ever see. They put them in a room and told them to make a movie that would scare the crap out of the squares, and they delivered hard. CGI in this film means crazy, glorious, intense. This movie was so kino that the communists can't handle it, the film nerds can't handle it, and the only one who dares talk about it is Quentin effing Tarantino. From the director who brought you every 90s crime thriller that wasn't Michael Mann, comes this simply told and excellently executed story where everyone is the bad guy and everyone gets what's coming to them.
They were running this city into the ground. I spent half my life in prison. I never got away with anything, and I never killed anybody that didn't deserve it.
Who made you judge and jury?
It's a tough job, but somebody's gonna do it.
Christopher Walken, David Caruso, Lawrence Fishburne, Wesley Snipes, Steve Buscemi, and Breaking Bad's Giancarlo Esposito round out this all-star cast in a world where 80s yuppies take over the drug trade in New York City and do it with panache. The politicians are corrupt. The cops are corrupt. Frank White, the drug kingpin, is going straight. He's the only man in New York with a code, and he enforces it at the barrel of a gun. This is the way movies were supposed to be. Not everyone who runs a city is elected. In King of New York, 1990.
See you, boys.
'79T 2458 Learning Corp Little Red Riding Hood. Take one.
"40 years of my life is in the wire that's gone." Does that make sense?
Where they say there are Indian people pooping on our beach.